Welcome to a special edition of Coach's Idea. I am Marvin O'Kello, the DIA coaching support for Canadian Sport Institute Atlantic. That's the Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, Accessibility coaching support. Avid Arsenal fan, head coach of Halifax County United. And to my left, I have...
Jordan Ellis. I'm the owner of J Stars Private Soccer Training. Been a coach for maybe around 3 years now. Started Ignite, and London is blue.
It most certainly is not. My name is Houssam Elokda. I'm an Egyptian. I love soccer or football. We call it football back home. We're going to use soccer today. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm also an Arsenal fan. I'm an aspiring coach. I am still very, very much early in the journey. And I'm one of the hosts of a podcast, an Arabic podcast about soccer called Kora Cafe, and this is our studio. So
thank you for having us, Houssam, too.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
you.
Really appreciate you hosting. And I really love that it's 2-1 Arsenal versus Chelsea fans here.
100%. And we got Salah representing us out in the back there, just because this is an Egyptian podcast.
Course.
So Salah has to
have the Egyptian king.
Has to be here. The Egyptian king has to make a presence.
Chelsea gave him the motivation to be who he is, so Chelsea for that.
So now we may support different clubs, but we do all support the beautiful game. And we met through, I've known Houssam for a number of years, way back since playing at Dal and intramurals. I think probably would have been where we met.
Played a random game and saw this guy like dribbling everyone 5-6 times and scoring. I was like, damn.
Ball is life.
Ball is life, yeah.
And I've known Jordan probably for a couple of years now, just seeing him around Soccer Nova Scotia and through some mutual friends. Amath and Stephen, who both work at Soccer Nova Scotia as well. But through the New Canadians coaching support program, the three of us have been able to spend some time, and I've been able to support in Houssam, especially, who's an aspiring coach, get him started, meet him, introduce him to some of the Wanderers coaches, went to a nice training session, and Jordan was able to join there as well. We have a WhatsApp community where I also share some of the best courses and some relevant events that are happening. But let's take it back, We'll start with you, Jordan. Where were you born? When did the love of the game begin? How long have you been supporting that awful club?
Born in Jamaica. Was raised there for 17 years before I came here. To be honest, was not interested in soccer growing up. I think my dad's a huge, unfortunate Manchester United fan.
Oof.
And did not get it. And then I think I went to prep school, and then my best friends were playing on the team, and then I wanted to be with them too. So that's how I got interested in playing, because of my friends, because I want to be a part of what they were doing. And then never understood the game, did not watch actual games until maybe, I think, 12. I was maybe originally a Liverpool fan because of Torres, was in love with Torres for whatever reason. Then he came to Chelsea and was like, I'm a Chelsea fan now.
Yeah, okay.
And then they started winning 2012 Champions League, and then I saw no reason to turn back. And I just kept pushing with Chelsea ever since.
Okay. And obviously, you said you run your own soccer coaching.
Yes. I came to Canada, never played organized soccer in Jamaica at all, just played scrimmage, just kicked around.
So what's the culture like there with the kick-arounds? Because I think there are going to be some similarities with Kenya and with Egypt, but I'm curious, what was kind of the environment? Is it pretty lighthearted? Is it more guys are trying to chop each other, dangles, and celebrating every goal? Is it more physical? What was it like?
It's everything. It's everything. I think what I do love about Jamaica is that after school or on the weekend, you hear a ball bouncing on the street. It's time to go outside and play, and then it's mixed. So you might have maybe the little kids start out playing first, and then older men came from after school. If you're old enough and you're good enough, you play with them as well. And then you get that physicality right in there because they'll let you play, but they're not gonna go easy on you necessarily.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to put it between their legs and stuff.
Oh
That's
yeah, you get kicked for that. For sure. But then it gets you stronger. So when I came to Canada now and I'm playing with the Canadians and the guys that maybe grew up here who are not used to that physicality, even though I may be a smaller guy and skinny guy, I'm used to having my legs kicked around by the older dudes back home, and I brought that physicality here. And I think it was good for me to see the difference between different styles. And I think the guys here are more organized because they've been playing. There's no organized soccer, especially from a U6 coming right up as a child in Jamaica. I think either play for your school or you're not playing organized soccer at all.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a theme too, even with Egypt and Kenya. Like, it's not very organized until you get into the school system and you play for the school team. Otherwise, there's not even as many clubs, like youth clubs and things like there are here. There's so many here. It's been one of the like interesting things learning the whole structure of the club systems, and unfortunately, it hasn't been the same the whole time too. Used to be a tier system. Now it's A, double A, triple A, like hockey, which is still weird for me to accept. On top of having to call it soccer and not football. But no, I mean, everything for us was unstructured. Like, most of my play that I had living in Kenya was unstructured. It was playing with a ball that we made out of plastic bags rolled into each other because nobody had a ball, and we tie it up with an elastic and go and play. Or, you know, I'd be skipping, going downtown to play with the kids who were skipping school. Again, getting roughed around because, you know, as a young kid who you're beating some of these older guys, they're going to dig their elbow into you. They're going to leave that leg on you, you know. Was it kind of similar with you, Houssam?
Well, you know, Egypt is a country that's absolutely crazy about soccer. Like, when there's a big game, the whole city is quiet. People are watching the game. You know, if the national team's playing, and particularly the African Cup is like huge. So everyone from all walks of life in Egypt grows up playing soccer. And in school, your popularity is judged by how good you are at soccer and how much people want you to be on their team.
So
and
if it's not playing it with your feet, it's how good are you with FIFA, I imagine.
So something. But like, really, just like, I remember, you know, like our recess or lunch breaks after schools, before any time that's available will be filled with soccer. So obviously, you know, from as far as I can remember, I started playing. The organization in terms of, you know, like practices, etc. It's funny that you guys are saying it's was more focused in schools. My school certainly had like organized soccer, and I played in that up until I left and moved to Canada. But actually, most people and the vast majority of like professional soccer players, they don't go through the school system. School system is not well recognized. It's mostly a small number of schools that actually have like a league that runs between them. We have things called neighborhood clubs. Like, every neighborhood has a club that has multiple sports under its umbrella. So think like the Canada Game Center here in Halifax, but with like spaces that people can socialize and just hang out. And our parents would like drop us off after school into the club and just leave us for the whole, and like we spent the whole weekends there.
See ya.
And it was all on, like, you could join a team, but you could also just, like, you know, on the weekends they didn't let anyone book the fields except for like the bigger teams that book it at a certain times. But then the fields were open, and they'd have like these small sided like 5-a-sides and
that's awesome.
And handball fields and whatever. We play soccer anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And then you would go with your friends, and other people will go with their friends, and you play for the field, right? You keep winning, you keep staying. So it got really, really intense. Like, you know, like we'd fight about it. We'd get physical, you know, and you'd play, and then people older will come and kick you out of it. So it was in this unstructured sense that, you know, that for me, I developed the love of the game. And then, you know, like,
how old were you when you moved to Canada?
I was 15. I was 15 years old when I moved to Canada. Unfortunately, I had actually, stopped playing for a little bit before I moved, and then never quite got into it when I got here, and basically didn't play soccer for all of my high school time, which I'm really disappointed in. I think I tried out once for my high school team at grade 12, and I didn't make it, and I was like, okay, whatever. I haven't played in a few years now, and that made me, really sad, because I feel like if I had continued playing more structured back home, I would have, could have kept playing, and I'm 31 years old now, and
because Houssam got skills, man.
I still love to play, man, and I'm like, I wish I had more structure on all of this stuff for my youth, but
it's never too late, man.
Well, to play, it is definitely too late, but now,
I mean, not to play at a pro level or whatever, but
to just play for fun. Yeah, we play for fun, so that's the love of the game. For me, thinking about coaching is, I love being involved in the game. It's why I started a podcast about football. Hopefully I can keep playing for a long time, but maybe I don't know when the end of playing will be for me, and I want to find avenues to stay connected. And I'm also really passionate about the aspects of the game that are outside the field, so just like what makes a team tick, how teams set up on the field. Like, I find myself watching games and paying attention, not to the goals, but to the structure of the team.
Yeah, because I'm curious. I laid out here a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your formation's go-to is going to be.
I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for the 4-4-2 just because that's the Invincibles. It went out of
draws. A lot of draws.
It went out of fashion.
Zero losses.
Zero losses.
That's an important one to look at.
Yeah. No one's ever done it. Have you ever done it?
Relegated, so it's not that big of a deal.
When I play, when I think of the game now, I find myself that the 4-3-3 is a system that's so easy to understand, so easy to build on. So I love both of these systems for sure. Definitely the 4-3-3 on the ball, the 4-4-2 off the ball is really good. I'm just starting to do the first set of courses on coaching, so I'm way behind the two of you. But I hope to be able to work with people and help them get better, and work with other coaches and help them add something to a coaching team, and work with people. That's something that I do in my day job, and something that I hope I can bring to soccer.
Yeah, see, I know you'll be a good coach because you're a good person. The way you interact with people and care about people is huge character to have in terms of when you're working with coaching. You're a very intelligent person. I've read some of the things you've written for politics, talking about city planning, and even as a fan of the game, I've heard you critique the game very well, even with your understanding of the 4-4-2 on defense, 4-3-3 on offense. You understand the tactical. I think the fun thing about coaching is figuring out and trying what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
The whole trial and error of it, knowing that you are going to mess up, you are going to be confident going into a game that you think you're going to win because you beat a team the last time 3-0, and they're going to come at you with a whole new lineup and a whole new motivation, and they're going to beat you, and you're going to wonder what went wrong. But that's the beauty of coaching, and why I think it's great that you're getting into it, is because you recognize that there was a huge opportunity there for you to play the game a lot longer, but your love of the game doesn't have to stop. And I think it's so important for a lot of coaches to understand their why am I getting into it. Because I think, in my experience at least, the coaches that haven't been good coaches or haven't sustained it there's two types. There's the ones who played at a high level and they're like, oh, because I played at a high level, I'm going to be a great coach. right? A lot of those end up not very good coaches, and we've seen it in royal examples, even in the professional game. You look at the Lampards, sorry to use your man's as an example, but he's been an awful coach, and just because he's a legend of the game.
Gerrard,
Wayne Rooney, Steven Gerrard,
I don't think Henri is that good of a coach either.
I don't think he's an excellent coach.
I mean, he's not an excellent coach, but he's definitely showing that he's improving with what he did with France and Belgium.
Certainly not as good of a coach as he is
as a player.
Exactly.
That's one bucket. And then there's the parents who choose to coach just because their kid's team doesn't have a coach. And they're doing it just because their kid's there, not even just because they love the sport, but just because their kid needs a coach. And there's a lot of those, and they just do the bare minimum, and they don't do the coaching courses, they don't get their certification, they just do the bare minimum just to be able to be a coach, and they burn out and they yell at their kid because they're too passionate about making sure their kid's good, and they're not realizing that sport is supposed to be about having fun, regardless of if you're at the Premier League level or if you're at the grassroots Timbits level. Soccer and sports are always supposed to be about fun, and I think the best coaches never forget that. I'm sure even the Mourinhos with the park the bus style, he still found ways to make training fun. And that's why players years after will say, I loved Mourinho. He had cool stories for us. He had good banter. Those are the things that
developed relationships also with a lot of players. You could see that for some people he meant a lot to them.
Exactly. And where Jordan has a different purpose for it. He wants to give back to the community, and you want to kind of lead a group of underprivileged, especially. I know you've worked with some kids at Ignite, and you work with some kids maybe who don't have the same amount of finances as going into like a private academy or anything. What made you even start that? I know you came from Jamaica, but what made you go, I want to start my own?
I think with coaching at Ignite, and most of the kids there are immigrants and newcomers at that too. And I just saw there was a real need for maybe a lot with coaching though is you can only coach so much because they're different kids at different levels all on the same team. And I just found it was really a challenge for me to maybe coach one person who can pass properly and at the same time on the same team coach someone who cannot pass. And then it's like they get frustrated with the fact that they'll never get the ball from them, and then the other guy, they just can't compete with the other guy, and they're all on the same team. So I just felt that me coaching that one person who cannot pass and get him up to scratch did more for me as a private coach or as a sole coach for that person. I saw more improvement with that one-on-one practice than I would maybe trying to fix everything, every player on one team at the same time.
So you work basically with the lowest hanging fruit, like the ones who have the least amount of training, least amount of practice, least amount of skills, really.
Yeah, but even the higher level kids is at the same time, if they want to sharpen their articles or work on their weaknesses, with how organized soccer is, you have maybe 55 minutes. So if they want to work on maybe something for them to get them on another level, there's no time for it. There's no space for it. So at the same time, I want to coach everyone at every need, whether you're good or whether you're bad. Private coach, I think, fixes those individual problems, and a lot of kids need that. They want to feel special, want to feel like, okay, this is for me. And I think that's what I saw the most improvement. Because they would ask me, Coach, they want more from me after practice. They bombard me. There's a line trying to talk to me. What I need to improve on. And for a long time, it's like, if I don't improve Jacob, for example, I can't make a practice just for him. In my 55 minutes, I got to coach the whole team. And I saw them coming to see me maybe after hours, improve their dribbling, their passing when I did one-on-one with them, and that's where it came from. So
once you saw the impact it was having on them,
I had more impact as a coach one-on-one on individuals, and I see it when they go in the game. I say, okay, this is what I told them. Or they even come back and tell me, Coach, this worked. When we did one-on-one, I can see it. Then where, as a team, if they're not all at the same level, or if there's any variety in skill level or anything, or confidence, that's a huge thing as well.
Yeah,
It's hard to coach everyone collectively to fix all those problems.
for sure. And you don't have any children of your own, or do you?
No.
No. And I know Houssam, you do, right?
Yeah, I have a 4-year-old.
Yeah, and so you're kind of a mix of the two. You're somebody who played maybe not at the highest level, but you love the game.
Not even close.
You also have a child, who you hope plays the game and continues that passion that you obviously have for the game. And I think those are good motivators for why you'd want to be a coach. And I think you also, especially I remember from when we were talking with Patrice and Jan Michael Williams after the Wanderers training session, was that you understand that it's not about making your kid into what you want them to be.
Yeah.
It's letting them choose their own path and hoping that they choose a similar one.
Yeah.
And that they end up being a soccer fan like you, but recognizing that maybe they won't, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and I think Patrice was telling us a story, if I remember correctly, just about, how one of the hardest points of a young soccer player's growth and their career, is the drive home, because they have to face their parents, and if their parents are critical or not supportive, that can be worse than the loss itself for them, because for a child, and really as a parent, it's so very important, almost, easy to forget that your child aspires for your approval more than anything, more than their coaches, to make you proud. And if if they feel like their performance on the pitch is gonna be the difference between making you proud and not, or making you upset, even worse, that's a scary thing for a child. That's a really stressful thing for a child. It can totally ruin the love of the game.
Yeah, and I definitely felt it at one point. I went from being like, why aren't my parents able to make it to my games, but it was because we were refugees and they needed to work and go to school, and I had 3 sisters who they also had to drive, and, so it was hard for them to stay, and then they finally start coming to games, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. My dad, my mom are here. And then I'm hearing my dad on the side, go Marvin, go Marvin, go. And I'm just like, okay, he's encouraging me to dribble through the whole team, which isn't the type of player that I am. I'm a passing player, I'm a team player, but he wants me to, because he wants me to make it to the provincial team. He knows I can do all these things. And I think that's based off of how things operate in Uganda, where he grew up, where you had to be selfish, you had to show that I am the one, And eventually I started getting in my own head, because I was that balance of what do I want to do versus what does my dad want me to do, which is to dribble through everybody. And then what does my coach want me to do? And my coach being like, hey, Marvin, you got to pass a bit more. And it's that you get in your head, So the drive home definitely resonates more than anything, more than coaches' instructions, more than what your teammates said, because you have to live with your parents. And what they say really impacts, especially what you said, is there's that desire, and it's there for both genders, but for a boy, you really want to make your dad proud. And I
have a dad that tends to lean on criticism. So I was always grateful that he never really showed up to my games. And I also played rugby growing up. I played that up until the end of university, and in a sense, I reached a higher level with rugby than I did with soccer. And I was always grateful that no one that I was a little free of that in a sense. They mostly didn't want to come watch me because they didn't want to see me get hurt, which I did many times. But that's rugby.
Did you ever have any of that pressure? Did you your parents, you grew up here, far away from your parents?
My parents are here, but I think...
Oh, they are here?
Yeah, they are here, but I think as a kid, maybe... There's a difference where you don't want your parents to come for those exact reasons. The embarrassment, the pressure. I think it's an age. Maybe when you're younger, you want your parents to be there because they're your support system. But as you get older, maybe you have more of your own self-confidence, personality showing. You don't want them to come because that's just another pressure stop on you. So, okay, if I mess up here, that's all right. But then, oh my God, I'm going to talk to my mom about it, my sister, my brothers, and everything, my friends. You probably want to play when there's the less pressure you have, the better. And if that includes your family, you don't want them to be there. So I think it's all has to do with the individual and just age as well. I think that's the thing. I even see it as a coach, players perform differently when their parents are there and when they're not there.
Yeah, and in different environments, whether it's a home game versus away game, whether it's family's there, family's not there, girlfriend's there, girlfriend's not there. You know, because looking back, I definitely had those pressures, you know, and like I said, my dad was definitely the number one pressure that would cause me to get in my own head. Versus everyone else who would come and just cheer, I scored multiple goals. Like, I think I went like 5 or 6 years where if somebody came to watch me play, like, I was putting up 2 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals because it gave me that extra motivation, you know. But there was definitely that unhealthy relationship with my dad where it was like, all right, Dad, like, maybe you come and you drop me off and you leave. Because, like, you know, and I remember the car ride I had to talk to him because I had a big tryout coming out for the Canada Games team, and it was like, I play better when you're not here. Yeah. Like, you know, I had a coach even tell me, be like, Marv, like, it seems like I'm noticing that when your dad's here, you don't play as good. You are a bit more selfish. You shoot more. You whatever. And he's like, I think it's just maybe let's try what it looks like without your dad here. And when I played better, and I was like, oh, okay, that is it. That was my first taste of realizing, like, okay, like, the people who come to watch and who are in the stands can really make an impact on the youth. You know? So it's something I've definitely taken into consideration in my coaching. And I think hearing you talk, Houssam, I think you're very aware of what that impact could be.
Yeah, because I've also seen, like, I've seen what parental support can do, right? Like, I have a friend back home who is one of the, I think he's one of like the top 10 handball players in the world right now. I grew up with this guy, and his parents are good friends with my parents, and his parents were like so involved and supportive of their journey. You know, he would make him, you know, play swimming to improve his fitness. He would make him do these things, but I never got a sense that he you know, resented that pressure. You know, he kind of thrived under it. His parents instilled in him a sense of discipline, and lots of support around getting to prioritizing sport, making sure that is something that comes number one, not number one, but like, you know, one of the top things. It's sport and school and family. Like that was there, and to see like my friend and his little brother, who's also a professional handball player, both playing like abroad and playing the national team and stars of the national team, to see like both kids, like that's not an accident. Like that's a parent that knew what they were doing and knew when to push and when to support, when to come back. So, you know, for me, I'd love my son to be into sport. I'd love him to be into soccer, but I think, you know, prioritizing being into sport in general is more important, because I love sports like soccer, rugby, tennis. I played it all growing up. Like I played a whole host of things, and I just the competitiveness of it, the sense that you have to, you know, push yourself to get better. You have to work on your mentality. You have to work on your skills and get better every game, and just like enjoy it. And you lose yourself when you're in a game. It's like time flies and you don't think about anything else in life that bothers you. Like that is something that I hope, you know, everyone can have. But
I mean, that's, I think, what's the beauty of why it's the world's game, regardless of all our various situations in our countries that we came from. You know, we all found solace in playing footy. You know, like, you know, for me, even in the refugee camp, there was a spot where we made, again, the balls with the plastic bags, and we found a spot to just kick a ball and just, you know, we were away from the war and everything in that moment when we were playing footy, ball at your feet.
Yeah.
You know, and in Egypt, I'm sure there's similar things and stories. I've seen the videos of, you know, there's all sorts of war happening, but there's people playing in the streets.
Yeah, it's always the street. You know, it's where a lot of the love of the ball comes and the love of the game. You know, people give up a lot to be able to play like that. This guy we got on the wall here, Mo Salah, he used to commute 4 hours a day to go to practice, right? And you're like, oh man, like the level of commitment and dedication and love. You don't do that without love, right? So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy how many stories there are like that, you know, and I'm sure even if you, I mean, I'll use myself. I know I don't want to assume, you know, I had to bus as a kid to go to practice. You know, there was all the kids who were, you know, for sure had the privilege of, you know, having their parents drive them to all of them. But for me, if I wanted to go from, because it was a lot of soccer, from school soccer to club soccer to provincial team to Canada games to trying to get some one-on-one sessions with somebody who was willing to, or going to play with the kids who were going to Dow Field or whatever, because that's where you get better. Yeah. You know, if you're only going to practice and games, you're not getting better than the kids who are out here with J-Star's private skills training.
No, it is true. Like what you do by yourself improves you a lot more than what a coach or a team can give you. It's that one-on-one training, whether you have someone like me or it's just you taking the time out by yourself, working on your craft every day as much as you can. That's where the improvement gets in. That, as you said, goes back to passion.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of the things that, like, you know, like I feel like in Egypt, soccer was so accessible to everyone. You know, the weather is better than here. There's, you know, you know, even the streets, you know, even though there's traffic in it, but there's always a place to play with.
Took it for granted, man.
People like, want to play. Yeah,
privileges are different in every country, but I'm like so, like. I get so jealous of the privilege to play footy all year long.
Yeah,
outside with your bare
even if
feet
it's really hot, you play at night.
You're still
playing,
right? Like I, as I put on my 10 pounds already of fall weight.
I mean,
it's so frustrating to think about back home and you know the BCs where they can play all year long, and here where we got to go to indoors for a number of months.
And there's not enough, you know, and you're talking not enough spaces. Jordan was just talking about how hard it is to find indoor space to do his coaching. And you know, like, unless you're part of a league that you have to be very structured, it's very hard to play soccer here in the winter. And if you don't have a ride to go to the fields, then you're at an even bigger disadvantage because all of the fields are like out in the business parks, are in the middle of nowhere where there's no bus service, and we don't have any indoor fields on the peninsula or in downtown Dartmouth. Like that's a big problem that I think the city needs to figure out. I'm sorry, I'm getting the planner in me, the city planner in me.
But these are all the things that as newcomers we can appreciate. You know, coming from countries like Kenya, Jamaica, Egypt that are warm. You know, and like sometimes people ask, I hear locals all the time, why isn't Canada better than some of these quote unquote third world countries? And I'm like, well, some of these third world countries or these countries that are in, you know, continents like Africa, which maybe aren't as developed as a whole, and there's that perception, in the Middle East, it's because of the climate. You know, and the culture.
The culture, I think.
Two big things. The culture is to play footy all year long. From a young age, you're playing it. You know, and then the climate allows us to play all year long. This unstructured play that you talk about, in the streets, in the everywheres, every single you hear about it in Brazil in the favelas. You hear this is why these countries are better than Canada still to this day. Until the culture,
and I think the accessibility of it also, right? Like 100%. like in Brazil, in Egypt, in many African countries, very poor people can get into soccer and become good. And there's the space to play and get good, and then once they are identified as someone who's, you know, above average talent, they can get there is some level of organization structure that they may be able to get into
and takes care of them.
And that's so important, because there's so many things about soccer in North America that need you to have money
that are inaccessible,
that are totally inaccessible to
and it
people.
hits the newcomers the hardest because they don't have the knowledge and the money to really play, and it breaks my heart. I have a kid, Mohammed, who comes with me for most of my volunteer sessions, with my private sessions, and he was passion for soccer. He was like, if you let him play, he'll play the whole day. But I think not sure if it's Jumpstart or Kick Sport, whatever happened didn't provide the funding for him for the winter, and then he didn't have the money to go register again. And it's like all that drive and passion is gone now. And he came to me the other day really depressed, and he's like, he doesn't know what to do. Because that's soccer, I think, for a lot of people, it's their getaway.
Yeah, it's their physical health, it's their mental health, it's their everything.
And then with the climate as well, if you're not playing, then what you're going to do for the winter.
That's what I mean, and that's where the weight comes in, and then that leads into mental health issues. And
I don't know about you, but if I'm not playing soccer, I'm basically not exercising.
A lot of the times for me,
I will hate every minute of the gym, but then play soccer for 2-3 hours until my feet can't hold me up. And I don't know. There's just
100%. I'd rather play soccer for 8 hours than go to the gym for 30 minutes. Easily. You know, and I'm Kenyan, and I should love running, but I don't. Unless there's a ball to chase, I do not love running just for the sake of it.
No. Give me something to chase. I'm like a squirrel. I need I need that incentive.
100%. But I mean, one thing that I think, you know, is good about newcomers coming in is that we do come with new perspectives about the game, new ways of playing the game, new ways of training, you know, and I think it's great that, you know, especially in the company that I work in, Canadian Sports Atlantic, like recognizes the value of newcomers, you know, and it's great that we're able to support, you know, help with getting their criminal record check, help with getting that certification, help with just navigating the websites, which sometimes is a huge barrier.
I spent a lot of time like interested in coaching, and then I Google it, and I try to find like, where do I start and what do I do, and I couldn't find a lot of information until I talked with you, and you were like, well, here is where you start. This is where you do. Finish this and then come talk to me. Like, that's so important to just know someone, and even to just like, for you being in the community, getting to know people, getting to know who likes soccer, who's interested in soccer, who might be interested in coaching, who might have the talent for coaching, and then reaching out to them and telling them, hey man, are you interested in coaching? Like, you know, you want to do something? You want to come watch a Wanderers game like you took us? Like, that's awesome. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about just networking, right, ultimately, and providing an opportunity, because I know there's a lot of great coaches out there, you know, and I know a lot of the newcomers, as immigrants, you know, sport has been a safe space for a lot of immigrants from time. You know, so I know that they have the right motivation to be those good coaches that I talked about, and who aren't just there because their kids there, who aren't like, and for some of them that is the reality. Because if you can coach, it means that you're spending more time with your kids, because otherwise you're having to work and do all these things other times, and you're not able to connect with your children. So if you're almost knocking two birds with one stone, and then you're able to affect and make sure that they have a good coach that's not being abusive to them or being too hard on them, you know. But with great power comes great responsibility, right? And if you want to be a good coach, it's sometimes hard if you're then having to spend extra time, you know, searching through the website and figuring out. So I'm always happy to help, you know, if there's any other folks out there who want to get involved in coaching. I'm always happy to have a discussion, even if it's not soccer. You've heard us talk a lot about soccer, but there's a ton of different sports. And one thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is like the value of those other sports. You know, would you say, because I know in my experience, I played basketball, I played volleyball, played ping pong, I played track, I ran track, I did, it's easier to say the sports I didn't play. I never played rugby. And I never played lacrosse. Other than that, and I'm a horrible swimmer. But other than that, I played all your sports, and it made me a better soccer player.
Oh, 100%.
No, you do
100%.
say that. I've been coaching this girl named Riley, and she's improving a lot. But her brother is always there watching. He plays football. He's a football kid. And
Soccer or football?
The throwing one.
Yeah, the throwing one.
American football.
And then, but he has the movement, the feints. So he's watching his sister play, and I think one he told his dad he wants to come join the session. And just the feints that he's doing for football, it just goes so well for soccer.
Yeah.
So all I have to do is just show him how to move the ball.
Yeah, with his feet.
Cause his movement, as a midfielder myself, just seeing him move to find space that he would do in football, it just works so well for soccer.
Yeah.
I wonder if Adama Traore used to play American football.
He would be a crazy running back.
Yeah, he would be like insane. He looks like a football, like a not a soccer. I think he might be more of an American football player than a soccer player.
Yeah, man. And like honestly, my friends, whenever this comes up, we always end up talking about how good of a wide receiver LeBron James would be. He would be the GOAT of wide receivers. His speed, his strength, his hands, his reach, his just athleticism. Imagine trying to defend LeBron James as a wide receiver. You wouldn't be able to.
Just even as an athlete.
I think even Kobe did mention him playing soccer helped him a lot for basketball as well.
Yeah,
when he grew up in Italy. A lot of people don't know that chapter about Kobe's life.
I played all kinds of sport. I mentioned to you like being part of that neighborhood club. There you can actually play different sports. So because, it was cheaper than babysitting, my parents would just leave you there. And I'd sign up for multiple sports. And soccer was the one I loved the most, but I also played handball. I also played swimming. I also played tennis. I played squash. Egypt is like one of the best countries in the world in squash for some reason. And each of these teaches you something, right? And I grew up my whole life like playing all these, mostly non-violent sports. And then I came here and I discovered American football and rugby, which are almost non-existent back home. Rugby now is getting a little popular, but growing up it wasn't. I even though by high school and especially grade 11 I had started to put on some weight, so I was perfect for rugby. I was too heavy for soccer at that point, but I was perfect for rugby. Because I still had the athleticism of soccer, the ability to change speeds, the ability to read play, the ability to do these things, and I was a big guy who can run. That's that's all you want for rugby. Someone who can just like get in and put a tackle and all these sports come together because it's just a love of sport in general and competitiveness. It's so energizing and addictive.
Yeah, and I think because of some of the environments that we grew up around the sport, like we have a much more appreciation of the sport. We don't take it as much of a privilege as some of I know some of my friends that I've grown up in Canada and around the safety that if I want to play a sport, the money's there for it. If I want to do anything, it's there for it. You know what I mean? Like versus kids who literally, in my example at least, soccer was my safe space. It was my fun. It was my only time I got to play with other kids. It was, the only time that I wasn't being yelled at by a teacher or a parent or a grandparent or, you know what I mean? So because of that, I appreciate the game so much more.
It's more than a game.
It is 100%. And understanding the role we have as coaches to kids who also share that love of the game, and especially working with some of these immigrant kids who sometimes the locals don't understand how to coach them and don't understand just how far this passion goes. Right?
You hear them screaming and stuff, they're not angry, they're just really passionate.
100%. And I think that is a common theme is immigrants being very passionate about a sport and taking it to that next level. And even as parents in the stands, my kid scored. And people are like, it's people's crazy. No, we're just passionate. But I think it's great that you guys are giving back, obviously, to the next generation. Houssam prayers that your kid ends up liking soccer. You know,
well,
Hopefully a different
first-
club, though.
Yeah, I was like, first he has to be an Arsenal fan.
exactly, of course.
Don't put it through that separation.
That's not. I don't get it. That's not negotiable. And then we start. No, of course. As long as he's not a Tottenham fan or a Chelsea fan, I might accept other things. But I hope he's a gooner. I just want him to be okay with suffering. That
At
builds,
least you know that's
that
what it
builds
comes
character.
Oh yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Yeah.
If he wants to be a Chelsea fan, for sure there'll be lots of suffering. You know, but
My trophy cabin doesn't say that, but you know,
Just a smaller trophy cabin.
exactly.
not in Europe though. Not in Europe.
But no, as newcomers, I think we have a lot to offer to the sport landscape. Our new perspectives, different perspectives, different views of how to play the game and all that. But it's been great having you guys in the program, and I'm excited to see you guys doing some stuff in terms of coaching other people, coaching other neighbors and other friends, and just pulling more people into the sports that we love. Because obviously, it's the best thing in the world being involved in sport, right?
Yeah.
And coaching, and I'm excited to see how far you guys go. You know, maybe one day you'll be coaching a high school team, a provincial team, or whatever. Maybe J Stars, will be sponsored by Nike one day,
Yeah.
Do it. Let's do it.
But no, I appreciate you guys coming out, and
thank
Thanks for having us, Marvin.
Yeah.
and thanks Houssam again for providing this awesome space.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that it's Mo Salah and no Chelsea players or anything out there on the wall.
Should
that-
have got
that-
him in a Chelsea captain. That would have been.
Yeah, I'm still working on getting my Thierry Henry poster here, so to sit next to the king. He's about to overtake Thierry Henry.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh,
But
I saw that.
a lot
That's
more
making-
games played,
That's making me sad. Yeah, but still,
for sure.
Thierry Henry, man.
But until next time, keep those coaching ideas in mind.